The following is a member of the Burke Reviews podcast family. BurkeReviews.com.
Top 5 movies. Top 5. Top 5 movies. Top 5 movies. Top 5 movies. Top 5 movies.
Hey everybody, welcome to Top 5 Movies. I'm John Burke, and with me this week, as always, Corey Starr.
Hello.
And Michael Sanchez.
Oh, hi, Burke and Corey.
And sorry for my hesitation. There was a weird noise from Skype, like right when I started to speak, and I don't know what it was. But this is Top 5 Movies, and we will be discussing our Top 5 movies of John Travolta this week for two reasons. Do you guys know what two reasons are?
Gotti.
Gotti is one, and Gotti is doing horrible in every sense of the idea.
That's one of my picks, right?
It is. It's one of your picks. You still have until July 1st to change that pick if you would like to. And if you're listening to this episode and don't know what Mike's talking about, we did our summer movie draft earlier, right before the summer movies kicked off. Mike, Corey, myself, and then Matt from What I Watched Tonight, and Craig from Music Musing. We drafted all the summer movies, and Mike picked Gotti, hoping that this could be Travolta's return to form. And it does not appear to be, or at least the movie isn't. Last I heard, it had a 0 on Rotten Tomatoes. I don't know if it's gotten any better since its release. It has not. It is still at 0 on Rotten Tomatoes, which means every critic who has given it a review has said, no, sir, not worth our time. It's not doing well in the box office either. It is getting a push, though, and I don't know if you saw this, but MoviePass actually pushed this movie on their app, and we're like, hey, go see Gotti. It did not work. Kind of.
They're always pushing the questionable ones.
Because they get on board with them. Although they're pushing American Animals, which is fantastic, but not in a lot of markets. That's the downside. It is in fewer places, and Gotti's like almost everywhere. But I have yet to see it. I don't want to drive 40 minutes to see it. It's not at our local theater, but it is.
No, it's not.
It's in Lakeland, though.
That's not local enough.
But do you guys know the other reason that we are talking about Travolta this week?
It's his birthday?
No.
Scientology something?
No, that's weird.
Well, he's a Scientologist!
That's true, but I don't usually bring religion into this.
Where?
But
I know.
This year is the 40th anniversary of Grease.
Oh, gross. Okay.
And so
Hey.
I felt like it was, it might be on somebody's list.
Yeah.
But it is one of my wife's favorite films, and they've released Funko Pops of Sandy and Danny, two different versions. You can get them in their greaser look or in their preppy look, or their Soch look if you're more of an Outsider fan. But so this week we decided to look at Travolta's films and make our top 5 list, which gave a very few options. Really, I was actually surprised to see how few of his films I've seen. Plenty to make a list, but like he's got 77 credits, but a lot of these I haven't seen. It's basically everything since
That helps me.
well, that's true. Basically everything since Old Dogs I have not seen. So since 2010 I have not seen a new John Travolta movie. Because I was gonna see From Paris with Love, but I never ended up doing so, and I skipped Savages because I heard it was awful. But yeah, so it definitely limited my selection, but at the same time, I think the list was relatively easy to make. So we're just going to get into this list this week. So if you've never listened to the show, we pick our topics and then we make our list in secret, and the show is us revealing our list, giving each other crap about it, and getting pretty much just having a good conversation about this specific topic. So Corey?
Guys, go to BurkeReviews.com and check out our top 5 list. Otherwise, from here forward, there may be spoilers. You've been warned.
And Mike, as he kind of just alluded to, has a tendency to pick movies that we haven't seen. And this particular pool of movies is definitely smaller than normal, but nonetheless, I have looked at his films and I've not seen many. So I am apprehensive. Corey and I like to guess. I'm sorry. how many of Mike's films on his top 5 list we have seen. Corey, I think I went first last week, so I'll let you go first this week.
1.
I was gonna go 1. I think I'm gonna go big though. I'm gonna say 3. I feel confident that the ones he's gonna pick I've seen. But what were you about to say, Corey?
Oh, I struggled hard, real hard. He's never been a pulling factor, for me to see a movie. My mom was a big fan when I was a kid, so there were movies that I remember parts of, but, my mom, loved Urban Cowboy when I was growing up, but I've never, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
I had a really hard time, and I really did struggle, and I actually watched one.
I gotta say, though, in my head, he was a bigger pull than he appears to be. Because a lot of his movies are not that big of a draw. I'm looking and he doesn't... he has a few big, roles or whatever, but I feel like there's some major gaps in his time frame that kind of shocked me. In my head, he's a much bigger actor than his videography says he is. Or filmography, sorry. Which, I don't know, Mike, do you have anything to argue against that claim that I just made there?
I'll be honest. I've been a fan of his since Welcome Back, Kotter, which actually will come up in conversation. So that's 75. I was 2. I don't know that I watched Welcome Back, Kotter at that age, but if that's on, I will watch it. And you know what, though? I don't know that. I guess you're right. I don't know that just because he's in it, I'm not just going to run out and watch it. Now, I ran out and watched one specific one, which I'll not mention in case it's on a list, and we'll talk about that later, but not necessarily because of him, because of the director.
Okay. Yeah, I'm looking through and I'm just in my head he's a much bigger actor than he really is, and that's interesting to me. And it might be just because of Grease, because that's, I think that's his biggest film. I mean, he's in a couple other big ones, but I think Grease is the biggest. And definitely the most iconic, right? I mean, that's what I think when people think Travolta, they think Grease.
I think Saturday Night.
Yeah, I beg to. Yes, I agree with Corey.
What did she say?
For once, Saturday Night Fever.
Really? Over Grease?
Oh yes. Yes.
I guess my family is bigger Grease fan. I mean, I like Saturday Night Fever more than Grease. I'd like to point that out, but I still, when I think of Travolta, Grease is where my head goes first. Maybe it's the hair.
Where? Who? How? Why?
Well, with that, I'm saying 3 of Mike's. Corey's saying 1. Mike is going first this week, then me, then Corey. So, Mike, what is your number 5 John Travolta movie?
All right. I was recently telling someone in conversation that I'm not much for, one, the romance type films or musicals, and then proceeded to list a slew of romance and musical films that I did like. So it's, I'm more than just a bit conflicted when I come, up with lists and opinions. I don't know why that is. But anyway, I don't recall being sure what I was getting into when going into the theater to see 1996's Phenomenon. But I know that I left the theater quite pleased. I know that I still like the film. It's not one of those I'm going to drop everything and watch it. But it converted me into a Kira Sedgwick fan, who I believe is still Kevin Bacon's wife, right?
Oh,
I hope still.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's hard to tell with Hollywood, so I'm really hoping that that's the case, because that doesn't happen very often. That people stay together that long. It kind of was said. I don't remember the trailer. I don't even know how I ended up at this particular, because it wasn't him. I think it was because it was set up like a supernatural type of event film, but without the. Yeah, I think that got to it. It just didn't have the darkness that you might figure would accompany that kind of film. John Turteltaub directed it, who, as I looked it up, ended up being involved. I don't know if he produced or directed, but National Treasures, and it got me wondering, what if Travolta? I could see Travolta doing that role that Cage ended up playing in National Treasure. But as syrupy sweet as this was, because that is not my typical genre. I couldn't remember how much exposure it had gotten, so I felt it needed to be on my list, so it's on number 5. I deliberately avoided anything other than that supernatural bent, because I didn't want to spoil it. I wanted to be purposefully vague.
Got it. I saw. I don't think I sat and watched it from beginning to end. I do know this was a movie that was on HBO when I was a kid, and so like it would be on, and I've definitely seen parts of it. I may have seen all of it over time, but I don't think I ever sat and watched all of it. I don't remember much about Phenomenon other than that iconic pose of him like reaching out to like use his telepathy, like it's on the cover of the poster. Other than that, I don't remember much, and that's kind of the same with another one of movies that came out right after this one. I'll leave that blank for now in case it's on somebody's list. But Corey, have you ever seen Phenomenon?
I have.
It might be on your list or no?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well,
Oh.
we'll hold off then. We'll see where that one falls for Corey. I think that means it's my number 5. I went with a comedy, and I think it probably qualifies as a rom-com, but maybe not. I went with a film that, honestly, if I were to go watch it again now, John Travolta would not be the draw. It would be Another Man, who I've made you guys sit through because I am a fan of his older stuff, and that's Bruce Willis, who doesn't show up in this movie visibly, but is the voice of a baby. And that's Look Who's Talking from 1989. I've probably not seen this since 1989 or 1990 or something along those lines. I used to watch it when I was a kid. I have fond memories of it. It does have a 51 Metascore, so, probably like not a great movie, but funny for, kids at the time. Or it's, Amy Heckerling, who I am a fan of. She did Clueless and Fast Times. So, I don't remember much about this movie. I remember enjoying it as a kid. I did see the second one. I think I skipped the third one. But John Travolta's the dad of the baby, and Christy Alley is the mom. And you got some good comedy actors in there. Abe Vigoda, George Segal, Olympia Dukakis. And then, like I said, Bruce Willis as the voice of the baby, which I think was pretty funny. Again, I don't know if it'll hold up. Been a long time, but that's why it's only my number 5.
I don't know that it holds up. I don't know that I liked it to begin with back in the day.
Yeah.
I know I didn't go to see it in the theater. I probably actively avoided it on VHS.
I was 8 when it probably came out on VHS, so forgive me. And again, I don't think I've seen it for a long time. Like, I may have been 11 or 12 last time I watched it, and like I said, it's slim pickings. It made a list of some that I'd seen more recently, but I have fonder memories of this film than some of those more recent viewings, so I went with this one.
I'm going to go ahead and hop in. I put this as my number 4. Also, struggle bus. But I loved this movie as a kid, and I still, like, when I was thinking of this list, I couldn't help but laugh and remember the part where James goes into Molly's apartment, and I don't know if he's, like, drinking coffee or something, but he pours some milk into the coffee cup, and then she walks in, and she's like, oh, yeah, that's my breast milk, and then he just, like, spits it out everywhere or something. That was so
I'm
funny.
having that image of Kirstie. No.
Yes.
Savick
Yes.
does not.
What?
Savick because I watched part of Star Trek 2 today.
Oh,
He doesn't do that.
I've never seen Star Trek 2, but I've heard the even ones are bad. Wait, no, the odd ones are bad.
Oh, the odd ones are.
I've seen Wrath of
I feel like
Khan.
that's too much work.
It's a rule.
Yeah,
That's probably why they stopped numbering them. They're like, we're gonna break this curse, and that didn't work out either.
that would make
Oh.
sense. Although you can't trick us. The first one is still number 1. All right, Corey.
I'm not falling for your ruse.
Corey, what is your number 5? We already know your
Okay.
number 4 now, but
Well, it's the sequel. I'm sorry.
oh,
I liked this as a kid too. I think this one came out in '90, and I don't ever talk about how old I was, but I was a kid. And again, I remember they get a dog or something. They rescue a dog, and they're in the
Nope.
back seat of a cab or something.
that's
What?
the third one, I think.
Oh, that's the third one.
Yeah.
Then never mind. Then that's Look Who's Talking Now. Then
Yep, that's.
I'll say it's my number 5,
Oh, okay.
and that's how they named their dog Rocks.
Yeah, because the dog's he's on the cover of the third one, which has a controversial actress in it, of course. Well, controversial now. The voice of the girl baby is Roseanne Barr.
Roseanne Barr.
Yeah, at least in the second movie. I don't know if she is in the third one.
Oh, she's been controversial for the entirety of her career. I feel.
I think that it's
I-
just
I-
the internet is too accessible now.
You know what? I don't think she is in the one you just picked, so it works out. It looks like Diane Keaton might be the girl dog, and Danny DeVito is the boy dog.
Guys, I struggled. Sorry.
Because it looks like the kids are old enough to talk, so we don't hear their inner monologues. I'm guessing. I don't know. I am fairly confident I never saw this one. So
I feel like around this time, like in like maybe the late 80s, early 90s, they had all of these movies coming out about kids, and they were like comedies. Was it Two Guys and a Baby, or
3 Men and a Baby.
and then
Yes.
it became Three Men and a Little Lady, I think.
Yes.
Which honestly we stole from the French.
Is that and I want to say it's Steve Gutenberg.
Gutenberg's one of the three. It's Tom Selleck.
Gutenberg, Selleck, and
Is it?
I can't remember.
Ted Danson.
I thought it was Dancing.
Oh, I think that you might be right. Again, haven't seen them since I was a kid,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
also
okay.
like them. But I just feel like that was like the
the
thing
formula.
then. Yeah,
Mhm.
like let's make
Yeah.
these funny movies
You
about
see
kids.
patterns like that.
What? You mean Hollywood was
Formulaic in a way.
Doing what they
not
do
full of
now, then.
ideas?
That's correct.
What? No.
All right. Well, Corey went with Look Who's Talking Now.
I don't know. We can say now/2.
Yeah, it's
2/now.
the whole
Whatever.
they squeezed on there somehow.
Yeah.
For her number 5. That leads us to Mike's number 4.
All right. So this one actually we recently met. I want to say in the last episode we mentioned on the podcast. And so I'll just go right into it. It's 1981's Blowout, directed by Brian De Palma. You know what? I hope I didn't have it as a pick recently. Anyway, I'm picking it again. I never would have imagined that a suspense thriller would be made around the conceit of a film sound person recording what seems to be a typical vehicle accident and then it escalating to be something else altogether. And I don't know that this particular pick would hold up. I mean, it might. I'm actually surprised
Ooh.
that Hollywood, speaking of Hollywood and lack of original ideas, that it has not been tapped for some sort of remake attempt. Not that I want that. It's just,
Yeah, no.
that Hollywood is
Yeah.
notorious for that sort of thing. Nancy Allen was his co-star. Not John Lithgow was it. I barely remember John Lithgow in it, but Nancy Allen was the female lead who,
Oh man.
honestly, I don't know why there aren't more Nancy Allen films beyond this time period. She was so good in RoboCop, I felt, as the partner.
Yeah,
the original,
totally.
not the diluted remake. And I don't know what it was. For whatever reason, I wanted to say that she was in a Friday the 13th installment, but I couldn't dig that up. I was looking and clicking, and I think I might have been getting her confused with Amy Steele. But I mean, I don't know. But it's it's a suspense thriller. It's just really strange because part of the scenes, the setup, he's walking around with the old style reel to reel tape, and he's got a boom mic and he's pointing it out to record ambient sound just of crickets or just nature, and that's how he happens to be. Because of that odd quirk of his, that's how he captures that particular accident, and then it goes from there.
Well, I'm really intrigued by this for a lot of reasons. I mentioned, I think this was brought up because I mentioned that I have not seen most De Palma films, because I brought up Scarface on my Gap list.
And we need, you know what? This is the week. We should do that this week.
We should try to make that happen.
All
For
right.
sure. I'm on board. I need to watch that movie and get it off my list. Corey, I assume like myself, you've not seen Blowout.
I have not.
So
I
am
have
counting,
not. I did not do it.
Well, you've got your one already because you saw Phenomenon, right?
Hmm.
And I'm counting that I saw Phenomenon, even though I don't think I saw it in one sitting. I'm saying I've seen enough of it. So I still need 2 more though. But I've not seen Blowout. Is that what it's called? Oh, like a tire.
Blowout.
I get it. Okay.
Yes, exactly. Yes. That is correct. Now I'm taking my shirt off, and you're gonna
Oh,
see
boy.
me in my tank top.
Exciting. And nerve-wracking. Okay, so that leads to my number 4, which I don't know if you've seen it. I do think I've talked about this movie, and I'm going to be honest, this might be the first film, in fact, it probably is, the only time I can say this, I have a tattoo because of this movie. It's not because of John Travolta.
Oh, I know. what
But it
is.
connected with me. It's The Punisher from 2004. This movie came along at the right time for me. It was still before the renaissance of superhero films that we now have. So this, in my eyes, I really like Thomas Jane as Frank Castle. Travolta, not a great villain in this movie, but I don't hate him in the movie. I think he could have been a little more serious than he ends up being.
It's almost like he was a caricature of a caricature.
Yeah, it's a bit much. I didn't realize Ben Foster. I always forget Ben Foster's in this. He's the one with all the piercings in this movie. And then Jean Pinochet. He's a comedian. I always screw up his name. He's the other roommate. I don't know. I really enjoyed this film. I still think it's super campy. It's not great, but there's parts of it that I really like, and I particularly love the commitment of Thomas Jane to being Frank Castle. And I got into the character enough that I did get the Punisher skull tattooed onto my body as a result of this movie. So, to be fair, I like the character outside. I've read many of the comics. I've seen the current iteration of Frank Castle on Daredevil and the Punisher TV series on Netflix. I've read multiple.
Oh, you're the best.
Yeah, definitely. John Bernthal is awesome as a Punisher. I love the hipster joke in episode 1 of the TV series The Punisher. There's this really great hipster joke at a diner that it cracks me up. I am a fan of the character anyways, and then this particular one was, I think, the one that made me kind of look into the character. So I hold a special place in my heart, even though I know it's not as good as it could have been. But Travolta's in it, so it counts. It's on my list, number 4.
I have a couple of issues with it. It's obviously one this isn't an issue, but it's so much better than Dolph Lundgren's, which we probably that should be the Voldemort of Punisher adaptations.
Yeah.
Poor Dolph Lundgren, poor Louis Gossett Jr. They probably signed up. I don't know. They probably had no idea who the Punisher was, because I think it just shows. It was so like this. It was insulting to see it treated that way.
Yeah.
And this was much, much better. I agree with you. I think Thomas Jane was really he did really well in it.
Mm-hmm.
I hated the relocation to Tampa.
Agreed.
That's not the Punisher's neighborhood. He's New York.
Mm-hmm.
But that also allowed them to not have to, because he eventually ties in with they got it together. Netflix did it. Daredevil. Spider-Man, he is part of the
Marvel
universe.
Yeah,
right. But at least they were making little baby steps. Now the other part, and this is also not an issue, but back when MJ and BJ were still on Tampa radio, wasn't Uncle Fester one of the extras in this?
Oh, I don't know. Probably. I mean,
I think he played one of the the mob guys. But now I'm gonna have to dig that up, because that show fell off fast. I forget what happened, but they're done.
Well, when I think BJ left, and then
it was never the same after that.
And then the feud with Bubba, I think, hurt MJ really bad.
I don't know. I think Bubba ended up on the short end of the stick with that
later, though. But I think he was winning a lot with the fans, and that hurts your listener base, So
it's true.
We get into the local radio politics now. It's weird.
I was going to say, yeah, that's odd for someone that's not a local Tampa listener. It's just. Sorry, I get off my tangents.
And what's really weird is Corey's number 4, which is where she's going now, is Look Who's Talking. Did you have anything else to add, Corey, or did you say your piece?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay, so Corey's number 4 is Look Who's Talking, the first one, better than the sequels apparently, and we're moving to Mike's number 3.
Oh, wow, it's me again. Okay, I really wish Simon West would direct more films like this. He won't. Because he doesn't listen to me, and no Hollywood people are ever knocking on my door or calling me, to pick my brain. I know they're not. What? No. As this is a fantastic book adaptation. 1999's The General's Daughter. It was adapted from Nelson DeMille's novel of the same name, which I will ashamedly and begrudgingly admit that I've not read. So sad face on me. But Travolta plays a chief warrant officer who's investigating the death of a prestigious general's daughter, hence the name of the book of the story. The general played by James Cromwell, which for a little bit it was weird for me to not see him. Imagine him. Wasn't he in Babe?
I don't know, but I keep seeing him in other movies. He was just in he's in Jurassic. No, he's not. He's in something. I just saw
Jurassic.
Jurassic World.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
he
just saw
is.
that today. I just
Yep.
saw that today, and I
Yeah,
was
I
like,
thought
oh,
so.
my. And the first thing I could think of was, that'll do, pig. That'll do. Oh gosh, and now I'm off on another tangent because someone was telling me something about a donkey. Anyway, um, that's a whole different story.
Yes.
Uh, there's a supposed moratorium on book purchases in my home, and I typically ignore that. And I know I have this novel somewhere around our house. So, the female lead is played by Madeline Stowe, and just like I mentioned about Nancy Allen, she is another one that I truly believe needs to be in more films. She was in a lot in the heyday, but
Mm.
she's not been lately, which makes me sad to think about. Um, just the way he plays Paul Brenner, the little throwaway lines of dialogue that for me still hold up, is what really made me put this at my number 3 spot. It's tough to watch more than once because once you know all the details of the murder, it's not just a normal death. You know the film. It's pretty solid suspense, pretty good mystery. I feel you should watch if you haven't already. The only minus might be James Woods' portrayal of the character, but I mean, it doesn't destroy the film.
Mhm.
It is in his character to be the way he is.
Got it. I haven't seen this. I remember it coming out when I was in school or whatever, and I was not intrigued. I guess I wasn't a Travolta fan or something, or at least maybe it was just it looked more dramatic than I normally would have gone for, and not action or comedic enough for my taste. So I didn't go into it, and I've just never gotten to it. But I thought you'd mentioned it before, actually, so I felt like it was going to be on your list, but it's not one I've seen. Corey, have you seen General's Daughter?
I have not.
Oh, good thing you went with 1, and I went crazy. I have to have his number 2 and 1 on my list in order to
Oh no.
hit my 3. Well, I guess then, Mike, we have nothing to add to your General's Daughter conversation, but maybe you guys have seen my number 3. And this is, I think, the only time he is just a voice, and that's in Bolt from 2008, which might be, sadly, one of the most forgotten animated films that I've seen in my life, because I remember liking it. My daughter and I went and saw it, and then this was at the time when the Disney stores were very prominent in malls, and they always had a 2 for $20 stuffed animal thing. And my wife and I were really bad about buying my daughter stuffed animals from this store. Like, anytime we went to a mall that had a Disney store, she was getting 2 new stuffed animals. And we ended up having all of the Bolt animals, which was a cat, a dog, and a hamster in a wheel.
They didn't have the pigeons?
I don't think they had stuffed pigeons, which is probably, but, and I don't honestly remember much about this movie other than I remember liking it. I remember the opening twist, which was, they market it like he's a superhero dog, but then we find out that it's all a story. Like, he's an actor on TV, but he thinks he actually has the powers. That's how it works. And it also does star alongside Travolta as Bolt, Miley Cyrus. So that's always a bonus, right? Her great acting. Malcolm McDowell shows up. James Lipton is in it. Greg German. Diedrich Bader, who's in a bunch of stuff. Nick Schwartzen's in the film. It's been a long time since I've seen it. Oh, Chloe Grace Moretz plays Young Penny.
Yes.
And then Randy Savage even was in it before he passed away.
What?
Yeah, it says he plays a thug. I'm sure it's just like, ooh, yeah.
Step into a Slim Jim.
But, yeah, this was a Disney, too. It's not a Pixar animated. This is Disney animated. I haven't seen it in a long time. My daughter would have been 4 when we saw it, and we both liked it enough that I haven't forgot it. And I know it's a better movie than The Punisher, probably, so I went with that as number 3. Although, to be honest, Punisher is probably a higher place because it's a film I've seen a lot. But I did have fond memories of it. I did spend a lot of money on those figurines and whatnot, and I do like the design of Bolt. I thought he was a cool looking stuffed dog. Not stuffed dog in the movie, but in real life. So Bolt is my number 3. Have either of you seen it?
I don't
have
even remember this movie.
Seen
Yeah.
it. It's just one of I associated more with the Disney store part because I remember that, and that was that. It's almost like a rite of passage. I think. Wait, what year was it released?
2008.
Yeah, we would have probably gone to theater to watch this,
Mm-hmm.
but see, this one doesn't. I don't know, maybe because I
It
don't know why it
seems
doesn't stick out to me.
it
Like,
seems forgotten, right? Like it's almost
yeah,
like
it
this
is
movie
one of
came out
those.
and it's
I had
just
to
gone.
And it's not that it was bad. I mean, even Disney doesn't run it very often, to my knowledge.
Mm-mm. It's
Maybe
got
it's
a
maybe it's the
67.
Miley Cyrus curse.
67 on
Yeah,
Metacritic.
washing her hands. Their hands.
It might be. It's a shame because I remember really liking it, and at the time my daughter liked it. I don't even think we own this one, which is unusual for a Disney film too.
See, you've even forgotten it to own it.
Yeah, well, that's not impossible because I have a lot of movies. But if I do own it, I've not watched it for many, many, many years. Probably since 2009. It was the last time I would have seen this. So I might try to revisit it and see if it's any good. But I liked it at the time, so it made my list.
You know, Corey's got a steel book of this one.
Oh yeah,
I do.
Corey,
Aha!
what is your number 3?
Oh, guys, my number 3 is Carrie.
Ah,
I was actually rewatching it today. My
oh
mom really liked this movie, which I think is strange,
Mhm.
but
yeah, because the mom sucks in this movie. Like not like
oh my god, she's horrible.
yeah, horrible. So
And watching it this time, do you guys remember Norma? The girl that's always wearing the hat and she's like Chris's best friend or something. She helped her like set everything up. I was
PJ Souls.
yeah.
Mm.
And I was like, why do I recognize this girl? And I had to look up her filmography and now I'm forgetting what else she was in, but
Halloween, Stripes, Rock and
Yeah.
Roll High School.
Yep.
Here's the thing. I know I saw Carrie, but I feel like I can't claim it because it's been so long. And I think I mentioned this again last week because of the Brian De Palma thing. I know my mom watched it when I was a kid because I think she also liked it.
Why do moms? Why? I just don't understand. Was it like, look at what a great mom I am? I don't really know.
Well, but to be fair, it came out in '76, so they weren't moms when they saw it because we weren't born
Yeah.
yet. So, well, I don't know.
Mom was probably 10.
Yeah, but I know I've seen it, and I definitely am familiar with the story because I've seen some of the remakes or the attempted sequel and whatnot. But I didn't feel like I could say this as a Travolta film myself because I have not watched it in a long while. So I had to leave it off my list. Although I definitely think this is better than, two of the movies I've already said. So that's a good pick.
It's a classic that I was
Mhm.
late on. I'm a Stephen King fan, and I don't remember. It was not right away that I watched Carrie, and I don't remember why. Honestly, it should have been on my list. I just wanted to give a couple others some attention. I didn't even put it on my honorable mentions, to be honest.
And I don't know if this is correct, but because I didn't do any research on this, but I think that this was the first Stephen King
adaptation. I think you're right. I believe you're right because
It's
he
nuts.
likes Stephen King likes to share the anecdotes about what it was like, as he was getting started as a writer, and Carrie, not just the novel, but then the film rights happened to come in time, to buy kids antibiotics or get them through, because he was doing a stint as a professor and working odd jobs, and then once this broke, then he never looked back. He could truly feel like he was a writer because of it.
Yeah.
I don't know if my math is right, but I think that Sissy Spacek was 27 in this film.
She was 27 and
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah,
I
she
wonder
was 27.
how old Piper Laurie was, because that would be.
It's not unheard of though for for actors.
No,
like,
but at least she actually looks like a teenager. I mean,
true.
how many
Yeah.
times do we watch these movies and we're like, they're 33 years old?
That's like Telemundo casting. I'm gonna play a child. I'm just gonna put some Sharpie marker freckles on my face, and I'm a kid now.
Well, that's definitely a good pick. I'm wondering now if it's going to be on Mike's number 2 or number 1, but I'd be surprised if it wasn't. I thought, but maybe not. Mike, what's your number 2?
My number 2 is another book adaptation, and it's not Carrie. I actually just said what about that one, but anyway, this time it's Elmore Leonard's novel of the same name from 1995, Get Shorty. I swear that I had this books, but I'll be honest, just like you buy movies, I buy books And I probably very much either lent it out, lost it, or had it in hand. And I have this habit of picking up books, getting halfway through, and then, discarding them and being like, oh, I got to get back to it. So, anyway, the it, basically he plays just mafia muscle who's tasked with retrieving money that technically isn't the mob's, but ends up in Hollywood. He's this gangster who loves film and wants a way to find it. If only all of us could just go out to Hollywood, dip into a Z grade movie director crowd, and then start meeting people, because the cast is all over the place. There's Rene Russo. I didn't even think to mention Rene Russo, who's really great.
Gene Hackman.
Gene Hackman as the director. Dennis Farina.
Yeah.
One of my favorite bits in the whole thing, and I'll spoil this part because he takes over. All right, so the intro, the cold open part, is a surprise party, which causes a heart attack for the mob boss that is the one that Chili Palmer, Travolta's character, reports to, and he falls over dead. He doesn't like surprises. He even says that's part of the line.
Yeah,
before he
that's
goes,
right.
And then he drops over dead, which it makes it so Dennis Farina is now over Chili Palmer, who is
They
is not
recently had an interaction. That is hilarious.
yes, that's right. The whole, there's a leather coat bit, and then, but the scene I'm getting to is in the barber shop with the barber's coughing, and then Chili's out there with the gun, and he shoots at him. He could have killed him, and it just kind of grazes his scalp, and he's running, screaming. That whole scene where he's like, call 911, call 911, which is totally out of Dennis Farina's character. That is not like him. To do that was so R.I.P. Dennis Farina.
And James Gandolfini,
who plays a great part,
Bear,
as a stuntman, with his little girl, and Yayo. I don't know the guy's name that plays Yayo. It just makes me laugh.
and we can't forget Delroy Lindo.
Delroy Lindo as Catlett. Yep, Bo Catlett. I don't remember his partner. I can't really remember his character's name. Just all around, it's really Danny DeVito. They even had Harvey Keitel.
Yeah, for one little throwaway scene.
Penny Marshall playing herself even for a real throwaway scene. So I love this film. Lots of little bit, of tension, drama, action, some comedic moments all around. I loved it. It was tough not to put this in my number one spot.
Corey, have you seen Get Shorty?
I have not.
So, this week I was in St. Pete at a training, and I went to see Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom on Thursday night, and went walking around a mall. And I talked about this with Corey on our Movie Club podcast, but I found this used bookstore in the mall called 321 Books, and they had a huge section of DVDs, $2 a piece. And I bought Get Shorty because I've never seen it, and I knew we were doing this list, and I watched it last night for the first time, and it is my number 2 as well. I loved this movie so much, and honestly found it very hard not to put it as number 1, because I think this is John Travolta's best performance. I don't think it's his best movie, which is why it's not number 1, but I think it's his best performance. I loved him in this movie so much. Like, he just owns this role. Like, he is Chili Palmer. And
that whole scene where he's sitting with he's look at me.
Yeah,
there's all these little bits that are just
oh my god,
perfectly.
So great. I was so impressed with this film that I immediately was like, I have to buy Be Cool now. And then I read about it. I was like, never mind. I thought it would continue with the movies, and it doesn't, and that's a shame.
It was very sad because I really wanted it
to be
It's hard to follow Get Shorty. It's really difficult.
Man, there's a TV series right now out called Get Shorty that is based on the novel that I think is Ray Romano and Chris O'Dowd. And I've heard it's really good, and I just haven't seen it, but now I kind of want to jump it. I don't know. I can't remember what network it's on. I'll look it up, though, and I will get that information, because I've heard good things, and I'm a big Chris O'Dowd fan anyways. I am hit or miss with Ray Romano, but in his last couple of things I've enjoyed him.
Deborah, no.
DeVito this is the most tame Danny DeVito I think I've ever seen in a movie. and I really like that. Actually, being able to see him not be creepy and gross. He's still a little gross, but not as gross as like the Penguin. This movie has an 82 Metascore, and it totally makes sense. It is so good in like every way. There's all these little like like backstabs and things like that are awesome. Lots of little repeated lines, like the "look at me" line gets used a few different times. I love when Hackman tries to do it and just can't.
I can't even say the one line where they're talking about the gun jams.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Gandolfini, who I've never seen The Sopranos. It's one of the biggest gaps on my HBO viewing history, and so I'm not as familiar with him. I've seen him in a lot of movies now, but I've not. I think most people really came to love Gandolfini because of being Tony Soprano. I loved him in this movie, though. I thought his role was so cool, and I didn't recognize him for a little bit. Like, I'm like, that guy looks so familiar, and I was like, oh my god, that's Gandolfini. I was looking for, older, little chubbier Gandolfini, and then realized that was him. I was like, oh my god, yeah, he's so good in this.
Really good, because he's this heavy, and then so different when he has his daughter, and just the interactions, because there are 2 times he and Chili Palmer.
Yeah.
And it is not what you expect, because you size them both up, and it's like, I feel like that would actually be something that happens.
Yeah, and that's what Travolta just owns this freaking role. Mm-hmm. Like, I was so impressed. I'm so glad I spent $2 on this movie, because it's worth way
totally
more.
Worth more.
Yeah, and but I'm thrilled, because this is a film that I never really interested me. I don't know what I missed in the marketing. I mean, it came out in 95, right? So I was 13, so it just was not something that looked appealing to me. If I had heard it was a mob movie, or it's technically not, but it kind of is. There's definitely mob elements in it. I wouldn't have. I don't think that would have drawn me in, because I didn't used to like mob movies. Although as an adult, I've grown to like them very much. And but then if I had realized this was a film lovers movie, because there's he goes to see Touch of Evil. And I love all the movie references and his obsession. I mean, this is what we're doing. Chili Palmer acts like us. He just knows all these facts, and he's spouting off all this stuff. And it's like, yeah, he's a movie lover. And a lot of the films they talk about are fictional, because they're many of them are Danny DeVito's characters' films.
Mm-hmm. Napoleon and well, and the other thing too, and I think you put it on for a number 2 pick. We really have a lot to say about it. Which
we
is
sure
funny.
do.
It technically is a mob film, but it's so uncommon, because it's lighthearted and just very realistic, very organic, very natural. And I have no difficulty believing that he gets out there, and all of a sudden there's Nicky, who he remembers from back in New York, and there he has an in to a movie star, which honestly I've had kind of not brushes with fame, but I've had times where I'm on a train from Winter Haven all the way to Pittsburgh, and run into someone I know of, that I hadn't seen from my high school days, and just stuff like that's very strange. We've had that happen there. We've had that happen in North Georgia in the mountains, where someone from our town, they're riding their bike at the same time as we're driving by. So we literally screeched and had to say hello. It's just so we're in the Matrix, y'all. That's further proof that we're in the Matrix.
Well, and to Mike's point, because we have talked a lot about our number 2 picks, but I went in last night even to watch this solely to see if it could squeeze onto my list, and it did knock off one of my honorable mentions. But I was kind of apprehensive going in. I'm like, I doubt I'm going to really like this, and I'm so in love with this movie right now. That's why I can't shut up about it. I was really blown away. So
did Taylor watch it with you?
She did not. Yeah, and it was kind of a spontaneous. Like, I had been planning on trying to watch it, and I had a lot of time to watch it, but I've been really addicted to State of Decay 2. So I spent way too many hours playing that yesterday, and like kind of forced myself to I need to stop playing the game. I'm going to watch a movie. I went with this one, and I don't regret it at all. In fact, I am going to encourage, like I am on this podcast right now, if you haven't seen it, you should watch it, Corey. I highly recommend seeing it if it's on Criterion.
You know what's crazy is I dropped money on that game, and my son's played a whole lot more than I have.
I want you to play, man. It's so much fun.
I need to. I've Iron Banner, Destiny 2 Iron Banner.
Oh, is that happening? Yes. I didn't even know. See how I'm so into State of Decay? But I've been gone all week, too, so.
I don't want to sidetrack too much, but level 30 gets you an amazing auto rifle. Sorry, Corey, you're You're just along for the ride now. We're dragging you across. And so finally hit level 30 to get that, and I could share it with my other characters. And then the next step is 5 more levels for a spaceship.
Yeah.
Yes, I am an adult, and this is my life.
No, we play games. We're gamers. We grew up gamers, so it's just part of who we are. All right, Corey, you get to talk now. What is your number 2?
Okay, so I put 1996's Phenomenon.
Yay!
Yeah.
I like your pick.
Thanks. This is another one. So, when did Michael come out? Where he plays like
The year
Angel
after.
or something?
Yeah, I want to. Yeah.
Okay, I thought that they were really close. Cause,
Oh, I'm sorry. No, they're
like I
both
said-
96.
Oh, are they?
Okay.
Yeah.
I remembered them being really close, and like I said, Mom was a fan of John Travolta, and I remember them both being on.
Yep.
But and wasn't he kind of like bad, or he cussed or something as Michael?
Yeah. Well, he had like human vices.
Okay. I feel like I should watch that one again, but I decided to go with Phenomenon, and that is streaming on Amazon Prime, my friends, or maybe
Oh, I gotta
Maybe
watch
it's
it
on-
again then.
Netflix. But anyways, I really enjoyed it a lot. I like his character, George Malley, a lot. Just small town mechanic, and he like witnesses this flash of light, and all of a sudden becomes a genius. And it's at first
And gets powers and.
yeah, the town is intrigued and interested, and then they become scared and they alienate him and start treating him very badly. I really like Kira Sedgwick in this a lot too. And I was a blubbering mess. Like,
Oh, at the end. Oh,
it was, Mike, let's be real. It was like probably the last 20 or 30 minutes. As soon as her son Al says, "Did you just come here to die?" or something like that. And I was
I
just,
guess
it
you
was
did warn us.
all over. It was all over. And Bill was like, "Oh," trying to come in the room. I'm like, "Leave." Just
all right.
leave.
The part that gets me is "I'll love you for the rest of my life," and then she retorts back, "No, I'll love you for the rest of mine." I'm like,
Right? It was just,
jeez.
oh my god. It
And then
just
they have
killed
that
me.
little bit in the bar, and then, yep, no, I'm like,
Oh my
Look,
god.
I don't know what's going on with me, and I hate to take away from your pick because it is such a good pick. But in Jurassic World, I know these are CGI dinosaurs. I know they're not
get
real.
invested, but we love
Yes,
them.
yes, and I'm like, okay, and I'm
Don't
like,
spoil that movie though, because
Yeah, I haven't seen it. I haven't seen it.
no, there's this part. There are several parts that I'm just
yeah.
like, I know Rachel.
I know
could tell
exactly what you're talking
and
about.
I was really angry and upset at the treatment of CGI dinosaurs.
Yeah, and
But we
I'm sorry.
care.
What a manipulative jerk J.A. Bayonetta or Bayana, whatever his name is, for like the way he frames some of those moments. Because I'm just like, that is the most manipulative shot you could have done to make me want to cry. Like, you are a jerk. End of story. But yeah, I didn't realize you went and saw it. I saw it Thursday night. I like it. It's not perfect by any means.
It deserves better than the 50% rotten rating. I have a couple of mine that are huge Chris Pratt fans, so I'm like, well,
Yeah.
I'm the Bryce Dallas Howard person, but I don't want to taint their opinion. It's I want to see, because I liked it much more than I disliked it, and I was going in
exactly.
really thinking it was going to be like the second one
Yeah.
from the other
Yeah.
branch.
But
And
Lost
it was
World.
I mean, yes, thank you. The two characters that I just grew to love, that weren't the main characters, and the ones that you are supposed to hate, that you really, really despise, it worked for me for what
Yeah.
it is.
The villains are real generic though, and we're not supposed to be doing this, but yeah, Jurassic World. Mike and I are saying, give it a chance, especially if you like any of the other ones. I think there's a lot to enjoy here. He does pay homage way too much to the other films though. There's like 4 moments in the film that are straight rip-offs of other moments.
That was the whole thing I was thinking about, the whole thing there. I'm like, I know where that's from. He pays homage to the original, homage to there's even, anyway, I want to mention it because it'll spoil it, but we'll talk off.
Yeah. We'll talk where no one will hear the words we're saying. But Corey's number 2 pick was Phenomenon. I earlier alluded to Michael actually, because those 2 movies, I don't know for sure which of them I saw more, because they were both on HBO. In fact, he had 3 movies come out in '96. Broken Arrow, which I hope isn't your number ones, guys, but that's him and Christian Slater. I never saw that one all the way through. I saw parts of it, never got invested enough to watch it from beginning to end. But I'm sure I've seen Michael and Phenomenon enough. But I don't have fond memories of either, so apparently I might need to give Phenomenon a chance because you guys really sold it to me, man. The whole I'm a little bit, gun shy because I think I'm gonna cry my eyes out.
Well, it's tough to follow Get Shorty, but it is a different role. I liked it a whole lot more than not, and I am not a.
I just think he's such a likable character. Like if he was somebody in my town,
yeah.
I would want to know him.
Yeah. Travolta there's a charm about him that I think is why I think of him as a bigger actor, because I do like him in most of the movies that I've seen with him in them, but he hasn't done a lot of movies that really appeal to me apparently, or at least I don't initially feel appealed to. Like I'm not like, ooh, I need to see that movie. But let's go to number ones. I think I know what Mike's is going to be. I have a good feeling. I wouldn't be surprised if this is the same movie for all three of us.
Yeah.
What do you think? All right, what do you think?
We should just do like 3, 2, 1. No, I'm kidding.
I was about to go with it.
Oh, were you?
Mike,
done it.
let's hear yours because I don't want to say what I think it is because then it'll give away what mine is. So.
Oh, okay. Well, I mentioned musicals earlier, and while this is not a full-on musical per se, the music pretty much defines the film as much as it defined the time period that it was set in. And my pick for number one is 1977's Saturday Night Fever.
Oh, I was completely wrong. That is not what number one is. I have seen this, though. I've seen three. I met my quota.
Oh, wow. Well, I mean, it's John Travolta. If I had narrowed it down to 2000... John Travolta films from 2000, then I probably would have. Anyway, I distinctly recall seeing this at the theater. I know I did not stay fully awake because I woke up in the middle of a part set on a bridge, and then I'm like, whoa, wait a minute, and I got very sad. Anyway, being that the film's been around for decades, I don't know that it truly need to fully recap it. It's not only, in my mind, Travolta's film breakthrough. I was a fan from the previously mentioned Welcome Back, Kotter, which I would still watch, except just avoid any episodes that do not have Barbarino. That's the beginning of the Ted Lang syndrome. Whenever the homeboy would join up, he ended up joining, I think, Married with Children, Love Boat. He was like the kiss of death for series. And so, anyway, don't mess with anything that does not include John Travolta's character. It set up disco as the musical juggernaut that it ended up becoming, much to the disdain of very many people, I'm sure. It's very much against my punk sensibilities, but here it is. It's still my number one. Break out your white polyester suit or corduroy suit, because that's what I had. I remember my thick corduroy, not the thin Levi's, like the thin corduroy. It was like a thick bars of corduroy, and Boogie Down with Tony Manero. It's a classic. It just without it, I don't know that he would be in all the other stuff that we were talking about.
I don't remember if I watched it last year or the year before, but somehow my wife and daughter went and saw like a play version of this. I think maybe it was at Theater of Winter Haven, and maybe my mother-in-law took them. I don't remember the circumstances, but I know they saw this somewhere, and then they wanted to watch the movie, and I was like, I'd never seen the movie. I'll watch it, and I did like it. It was a little more. Luckily, I think my daughter got bored partway or something. Something happened. Because it gets really hard R at points in the film that we were not ready for. And she wasn't in the room, luckily, when those moments happened. Because the play, obviously, they didn't do that. So
what? No.
So I've only seen this once and fairly recently, within the last 3 years. And but I did like it. But it's not on my top 5. It was on my honorable mentions, though.
Interesting. Now, the question is, which I will admit I have not seen it. Have you seen the sequel?
I didn't know there was a sequel. Is it Sunday Night Fever?
No.
Oh.
Just Staying Alive.
Exactly, Staying Alive.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah, Staying Alive.
What?
Yeah.
Is Travolta
I've never
in
seen
it?
it. I couldn't tell you anything about it other than that it's a sequel.
Well, yeah, it's not on his list, so he's not in that one. And Corey mentioned Urban Cowboy earlier. No, he's not. I'm saying. Urban Cowboy is one that my wife was a big fan of. I know I bought it for her when I worked at FYE, and it's sitting on my shelf over here, but I've never seen it. I think it's still in its plastic. But Mike, what shocks me, and I think this is going to be an oversight that somehow you must have done, because there's no way it's not on your top 5. And I'm pretty sure Corey's number 1 is going to be mine. Quentin Tarantino's Pulp Fiction from 1994.
It's my first honorable mention.
Wow.
I felt like he was leaving it off because he's talked about it before.
Probably. Is that why, Mike? Because you've mentioned it before?
Well, I mean, it's the one that kickstarted his second wave.
For sure.
Because without it, it wouldn't. I mean, it really brought back, and Tarantino's genius casting. I mean, in a sense, it's sort of stunt casting, but it works so well. I wanted to put it on my list, but everybody, it's
an obvious pick.
It's
as I noted, Get Shorty almost bumped it back to number 2 because I love Get Shorty. I still think that's the best Travolta performance, but this is a better movie. As much as I love Get Shorty, I love Samuel L. Jackson in Pulp Fiction so much. Jules is one of my favorite characters, possibly in film, definitely in Tarantino's films. I love Jules so much. I love everything he says, everything he does. One of the things that I really loved about Get Shorty, in fact, though, was having Harvey Keitel in the film because he plays the wolf. I hope I said the right name. It's the right name, right? Okay. He plays the wolf in Pulp Fiction, and obviously he's in Reservoir Dogs. So I like that he shows up in Get Shorty, having just worked with Travolta. I love Pulp Fiction. It's no lie. I don't think it's my favorite Tarantino film, but I think just because it's the obvious pick to be the favorite Tarantino film, because it's the one that it made a lot of their careers. I mean, Sam Jackson had done a lot, but this movie, I think, elevated him to a new level. It was one of Bruce Willis's last amazing films. Tim Roth, while he's not major in it, great performance. Uma Thurman, definitely one of my first memories of her. So it was, I didn't even hesitate. As soon as I started making my list, this was number 1. Everything else was just figuring out what have I seen and what do I actually like of what I've seen. And then luckily I watched Get Shorty, so I had a solid 1 and 2. I think my 3, 4, and 5 could probably be mixed around. Even maybe 1 or 2 of my honorable mentions could have been moved up. If I'd seen Saturday Night Fever again, maybe it would be on the list. I do want to note, though, we've made it through this list, and none of us have Grease in our 5. So
that's my second honorable mention.
I was afraid that's where you're going when you started talking about the musical. Because I am the only woman in the history of the world that hates that movie. I've seen the whole thing multiple times.
Oh God, so many times. I remember
when they were they putting it on VHS or DVD? I don't remember what was happening. I remember what grade I was in school, and I remember they were playing the soundtrack all over the radio all summer.
I hate the soundtrack.
And I was just like, please make it stop.
That's a woman?
Just like, what? Better shape up, Mike.
I'm a big fan of musicals, actually, which I used to say opposite. And I've learned that, no, I generally like musicals. I don't like Grease, and I don't know why. I just can't get into it. I don't like the songs. If I'm going to watch a movie about sosas and greasers, I'd rather watch The Outsiders. That's just me. And, But Corey...
It was originally on my list, and I don't remember what bumped it, but I saw that one in the theater too, so it was hard not to include it.
I think my first memory of that is actually a high school play of Grease, not when I was in high school. I was like a kid, and my mom took me to where I would go to high school, but I didn't like it then, and I've never liked it since. So
what's crazy is which high school didn't do a version of Grease.
True, yeah.
It was so prevalent.
Such a common one. Corey, but you're number 1, Pulp Fiction, right?
Yeah, I love this scene where they're doing the twist.
Mm-hmm. The dance number.
I love that scene, and I really like Tim Roth, so...
I think everybody lost their minds when they saw him dancing. Like, oh, he got to dance again.
He's back.
Mm-hmm.
I think that I watched Reservoir Dogs first. I can't really remember because it was so long ago, but I don't know. This was when I was starting to get into...
Interestingly, though, I saw this when it came out on VHS, in '95 or whatever, and I didn't understand it, for one, because the non-linear storytelling threw me off as a kid. 2, the sequence with the gimp freaked me out as a kid. Rightfully so. I mean, they're raping 2 men. It was a horrifying concept that I at 13 had never even crossed my mind as a possibility. I had not seen Deliverance. I still haven't seen Deliverance, in fact. But, so I didn't, the idea of being raped, especially, you'd always heard, you get raped in prison, but my theory for that was just not to go to prison, problem solved. I didn't have a backup plan for, not getting kidnapped, Well, to be fair, yes, but they are still kidnapped. They're not kidnapped because they're criminals. They're just in the wrong place, wrong time kind of thing. And that sequence is horrifying still, but I didn't like this movie in '95 when I saw it as a kid. It took me years to come back to it, and when I did, I was a much more versed film person and loved it. And so it could have not been on my list at one point, but I do love this movie. There's so many great quotable lines from this film, and even though I didn't love it when I was a kid, I still love Jules there. I still thought Jules was amazing, and I still do. Like, he has so many great lines, and Travolta's really good in this too. But at the same time, it's not Travolta's movie, right? Like, that dance number is that moment is his, but it's more ensemble than not.
I wonder if I left it off because his character dies because of a Pop-Tart.
His character dies because Jules had a revelation. Let's be fair. He was only alone because Jules had walked away the day before. So Jules doesn't have the religious revelation. He doesn't leave him alone. He's not alone in the apartment. Someone's watching his back, and he doesn't die from the Pop-Tart.
So it's God's plan for Vince Vega to die.
It could be. But
well, poor Vince. I mean, if Fabian had gotten that stupid watch, like he told her several times,
he doesn't have to. Butch doesn't have to go back and doesn't find the gun and doesn't his own gun, mind you, because that's Travolta's gun that he finds.
Mm-hmm, that's right, because he was reading.
He was taking a poop. He was pooping and reading. Never poop when you're watching someone's house. But that is our top 5 John Travolta movies, or movies of John Travolta, and we do have some honorable mentions. So, Mike, what do you got for honorable mentions?
I've already mentioned Pulp Fiction and Grease. Primary Colors was on my list. I really wanted to include that, but I don't know that I loved it. I thought it was worthy of an honorable mention just because of the basis of where it came from. Face Off, because I enjoyed that one a lot better than Broken Arrow. And that was the first one my wife thought of. I'm like, yeah, but that can't be my top 5.
Yeah, I agree.
And then this one I didn't include because it's a TV movie, The Boy in the Plastic Bubble.
But that is an iconic movie for him, and I every time, like, that movie Everything from 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm, yes, very similar theme.
And it's been done dozens of times. That story, the Bubble Boy, Jake Gyllenhaal's film.
Good lord.
That's funny. I'm sorry, that movie's hilarious. But
was it?
Yeah, it's stupid funny. I mean, it's not like a brilliant movie, mind you, but it's definitely funny. Jake Gyllenhaal's great in almost everything, and then. But I do think of this movie because I remember watching this on TV with my mom as a kid, and so. While we don't usually do TV movies, I think it's worthy of mentioning because I think it showed him as a potential, superstar.
You could see, you could see it then.
Man, I haven't seen Face Off in a long time, and I don't know if I've just soured on Nick Cage to the point where I dislike everything he's attached to at this point.
It's just so cheesy in parts, but I just can't help but.
Well, it has an 82 Metacritic, man, and it's John Woo. So I maybe just I don't know. Face Off was my number 5. I watched Get Shorty and I was able to push it back.
But glad you watched it because it's so good. That one's so good.
It's so good. Although I only have one other honorable mention, and it's not a good movie, but at the time I saw it, I did find it very funny, and it is Wild Hogs from not too long ago. It's more recent than it should be. 2007. Unfortunately, it does not hold up, and I probably shouldn't have found it funny in 2007. But
I've actively avoided that one.
Well, I like Martin Lawrence. I like William H. Macy, and then Ray Liotta's in it, which he's way over the top, like cartoonish villain. What a shock, right? Marissa Tomei's in it, who I am a fan of. I don't know, when I think we saw it at the drive-in, like when it came out, like we went, because they do the double features. There was something else in front of it that my daughter wanted to see, so we went to see that, and then we stayed and watched Wild Hogs. At that point, she's asleep because she's 3, and my wife and I found it funny, but we were out of the house, we were eating popcorn, having a good night. We probably would have laughed at almost anything. It's one of those circumstantial type movies, and I've rewatched it a couple times on like TBS or whatever. Like I'd have it on in the background. It's definitely not that funny. It's very, very homophobic. Like really, really like crazy to the point of homophobia that they throw in this movie, because like there are multiple scenes where the guys like have interactions that 90s people would have been like, oh, that's so gay, and it's like it's 2007, guys. Did you not get the memo that like it's not as, you shouldn't be as homophobic in a movie. Your characters were written to be like this, so it doesn't hold up. But I enjoyed it at the time, so I went ahead and slapped it on my honorable mentions just so I could point out it's got problems. Corey, what about you? You got anything?
Zero.
I figured
No
that.
honorable mentions. Wow.
No, I told you.
It was a tight list.
It was hard.
All right, folks, that is our top 5 movies of Travolta with our honorable mentions. If you like any of the movies, or if we left something off that you love of John Travolta's, or if you want to defend Grease, as Corey and I have kind of bashed on the film, feel free to email us, contact@burkreviews.com. That's contact@burkreviews.com. My reviews and anything these two ever decide to write end up at burkreviews.com. Corey does have something new coming out, hopefully in a couple of days. I haven't had a chance to proof it yet, but actually, by the time this is out, it'll probably already be up. But you can follow us on social media, though. I am at Burke Reviews. Corey?
At Corey R Star, 2 R's on the end.
And Mikey.
At Server Mikey.
And we are on Instagram, Twitter. You can follow me on Letterboxd. I'm the only one who I think actually uses it, even though I don't understand that. But I think that's it, folks. So until next time, keep watching movies.